Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Bailey. I am a 4th grade teacher. I love sharing my teacher life here and on Instagram. And today I am walking you through how I prep for a sub. It feels crazy to say, but we just wrapped up our 3rd week of school. Beginning of the year means it's time for me to refresh, update, and prep my sub tub for the year. In my sub tub, I keep a binder full of all the information that I want to communicate with my sub. And we are also required to leave 3 days of emergency sub plans and materials prepped. So I keep all of that in my sub tub. In case of emergency, my teammates know where this is kept, and if I am ever in need of an emergency sub, they can pull this out and use it if necessary. Every year, I have to update the information in my sub binder for new students, school procedures, routines, things like that. But this year, because we're rotating, I also need to refresh my 3 days of emergency sub plans. This binder was actually an assignment that I had to complete for student teaching, so I did most of the heavy lifting on this binder then, and then I just need to refresh and update it every year. Because I'm required to have this binder done and 3 days of emergency sub plans, at the beginning of the year, I try to make it a priority to get it done as early as possible. This year, I have a little bit of extra motivation to get them done early because tomorrow, Monday, I am taking my first afternoon off and will need to use it with a sub. Starting with the binder, I have updated it all digitally. I just printed it all out, so now it's time for me to put it all together. My sub binder is a way for me to communicate a lot of information about my students, my classroom, routines, procedures, expectations, all those good things with my sub. Let me flip this around and show you everything I include. I have a lot of information in here that has obviously been removed or adjusted as necessary just for privacy reasons, but this should still give you a good idea of everything I include in here and hopefully give you some ideas as well. So I start off with a table of contents, everything that the sub can expect to see in here, and then also it's an easy way, of course, to see if they're looking for something specific, where it is. I also have my sub feedback forms up here in the front, that way I know they will see it. I have my binder split off in sections, so I have the sections labeled out here in black. I also try to keep everything in a page protector, that way it all stays nice. So first section, we have a nice little welcome and thanking them for coming in and taking care of my classroom while I'm away. I also made sure in here to tell them who they can go to and where they are in case they have any questions. Then I have my daily schedule, Monday through Thursday schedule, and then our Friday schedule is on the back. Here are just some other scheduling things, so co-curriculars, which day we go where, if we have early dismissal. These are for intervention. I have lists of kids that are getting pulled out. These change regularly, but I always update this. Then I have my class list and my teammates' class list for when they come in. I put our seating charts in there for my class and both of the other classes, classroom rules and expectations. That way they know what I expect and can refer to this if needed with the kids. Then we have the second section, which is full of procedures. So I listed out in detail our procedures and routines throughout the day, starting with our morning routine, very detailed of what the kids are expected to do at this time. And then in between these 2 pages, I have my guest teacher attendance procedures that my office gives me, but I'm not going to include that in here. Then we have our co-curricular, which is right away our routine for that, snack routine, recess and lunch routine. Again, everything in very clear detail. When they come back from lunch, we have some mindful time, so I'm explaining what that is and what their options are. rotations routine, and dismissal routine. In the third section, there's a lot that I can't show you, but the first thing that I have is a building map with fire instructions. I also included a page of tornado or severe weather safety instructions, and then a page for ALICE information, all provided by my district. And the last thing in this section is specific medical information. Fourth section has technology information, all the technology that is in the classroom, some helpful tips with that, and an if done, what can they do? So I said early finishers will be using our catch up and pick one system, and kind of explain what that is a little bit, although my students are very well aware of what that is and how to do it. And then, like I said at the front, I have this feedback form for them to fill out. I just put a few copies in here. So anyone that was a great helper, concerns that they had, comments about the day, and then I also leave printed out sub plans. So a lot of times the sub will just leave the notes on there, so I made sure to include this. Feel free to leave notes on my lesson plans and another thank you before they head out for the day. Sub binder is done and updated, which was great to have all of that settled. The next thing that I need to do is work on my emergency sub plans. Like I said, I need to have 3 days of emergency sub plans, and then I also need to make sure I have my sub plans for tomorrow done and prepped. Here are all my emergency sub plans from last year, but like I said, we're rotating this year, so I had to refresh them a bit. Things like social studies, I am thankful not to have to prep anymore, so I have new sub plans that I printed out. I'll put together and then I'll show you what I did for those. So again, I just have some information that I've removed from these slides. I do not teach from slides every day, but when I'm leaving sub plans, I make sure to leave them a copy in the slideshow version and then also a printed copy. The slideshow is just easy to follow along with throughout the day. I like how everything is all in one place, and then I also like that my students can see it as they go very clearly on the slides. We do have to put all of our emergency sub plans in our school's Google Drive for my principal or team to have access to, and then open for a sub the morning of. That way they can use during the day. My team also knows where to find my sub tub, and those plans and materials are ready to go in there as well. As far as daily slides are concerned, I just have a welcome part in the beginning telling them that they should visit my sub tub and sub binder with important information, and then also the materials that they will need for the day are in there. Again, I'm saying that if they have any questions, to go check in with my teammates. And then the rest of the slides are for them to use and then my students to also see throughout the day. So this is a version of the slide that they see every morning. Then it goes through the entire day. Just some brief information about what I expect to be done at each time. All of my emergency plans look very similar, so they're just very simple but also clear with what I expect to be done. And then I have day 2's plans. Some of the activities change, of course, so I switched some things up for math. A lot of it's the same. Switch the read aloud. The science activities swap each day, and then here's the third day. Again, everything is just very simple and similar day to day. I obviously don't anticipate using these, but in case of emergency, this will do the job. Just switch up the read aloud, switch up the science activity, and my math. The rest of it pretty much stays the same as it does day to day. My expectations stay the same, our routine stays the same, so just some activities have swapped. I printed all 3 days of my sub plans and put them into my sub tub. When I get to school on Monday, my last step will be to look through the plans, see what copies I need to make, and make sure that they are all in here ready to roll, and my sub tub will be complete. Luckily, we have a building sub that will be in my classroom on Monday afternoon. She is great, and I'll also be able to touch base with her to chat through all of my lesson plans and show her where everything is before I head out. That way I can offer any additional support that she needs, which will make things roll a lot smoother. This year, especially just leaving for the afternoon, my sub planning got a lot easier. In my afternoon, I just have 3 45-minute blocks of science. Technically, our half day starts at 11:30, but I'm going to teach my reading lesson before I head out, and then by the time our sub comes in, she will just be finishing out our reading block, so I'm just going to have them show off their strong 4th grade reading habits and do some independent reading. Again, directions very clear on there, what they need to do when the timer goes off, and I will set that before I leave as well. Then they'll go off to recess and lunch, just normal routine things. This is for our mindful time, clear directions on there, including that one boy and one girl can use the restroom at a time during this time. It's good to anticipate some of the things that they may try to get away with the sub and have it clear for them to see that you are showing the sub what they are expected to do at that time. Here are my science plans. I actually was able to review this with my students during our last science class on Thursday. I always tell my students if I know that I'm going to be out and walk them through their day. I think it's important that they know what to expect, and then I can clearly communicate my expectations about what's going to take place. So last week on Thursday, I actually went through the entire activity just with a different book. I'm starting to teach them the CER response strategy. So we went through this with Ada Twist Scientist and made sure that we were gathering some good evidence there. And then we went through other examples as well, did some practice. I told them that they are going to be doing the same activity with Rosie Revere Engineer. So when they come in, they are going to quickly review what an engineer is. We did a lot of work with this the second week of school. So that will be review. And then my sub will read Rosie Revere Engineer. After this, they're going to go back to their seat to independently complete this activity, which again, they have already done one of these with me. If they get done with all of that, I printed this worksheet with help from Novel Effect. So this goes along with the read aloud. They'll do the front and back. If there is extra time, always leave extra just in case. I'm also leaving some of Novel Effect's discussion questions for my sub and some writing prompts. Again, just in case there is extra time. I made sure to write very clearly on the slide to turn in their CER response when they're done. And then also I want them to turn in their worksheet before they leave just so I can see what they got done. And I made sure to include a little note that it might not be done, and that's okay. I just want them to turn it in before heading out. And I put the schedule on there for my sub to see. So she'll just have to leave this slide up from 1:15 to 3:25 and do that activity 3 times. And then I included the normal pack-up schedule, which luckily my students already have down, so that should be easy peasy. When I get in on Monday, I'm going to make sure that I open the plans on my computer, print them off, that way there's a physical copy. I am going to make some copies of that CER organizer, that way it's all ready to roll. I just wrote myself a little note, that way I don't forget anything. I am also going to set everything out. Whenever I'm leaving materials for a sub, I always label them. This time it's very easy because I'm just leaving science stuff. I will always leave a sticky note with the subject on it and any additional directions, like this is just an if time activity. That way the 2 worksheets don't get mixed up, but I will again have the opportunity to physically show her all the things before I leave. But yeah, I just lay everything out in order with sticky notes, so hopefully no confusion on what needs to be done when and where everything is. I do always get nervous leaving my classes with a sub. I try to avoid it at all costs, but with our amazing building sub and again with rotating, the plans are just so easy. Being able to walk my students through it before leaving gives me a lot of peace. I know that they know what they're expected to do. They know what's coming, which I think is important. It just makes me feel a lot more confident about leaving and taking care of what I need to when I'm gone. knowing that things should be all good and run as smoothly as possible. I hope that this information was helpful. Please leave any additional tips for me or others when prepping for a sub down below. Don't forget to subscribe. I will see you in my next video, which I think will be a full classroom tour, so I'm excited about that. And I will see you then. Thanks for being here.